Hi, puppy people. It's Cindy, and I want to talk today about how to simplify your training. We humans love a good story. We really love to overcomplicate things, and training your dog doesn't have to be that complicated. It really boils down to teaching what you want them to do. So let's get into it. So how do we overcomplicate things? Well, again, we love a good story. We love this happened because of this or that. Why do dogs behave the way they do? They're dogs, and it works for them. So they're going to continue to do it. So what we have to do to teach them how we want them to behave when they live with us is to teach them the right thing to do. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a bunch of tools. You just need to know what you want your dog to learn. And how do you know that? I get questions all the time. Well, how do I stop my dog from doing this? How do I stop my dog from doing that? How do I stop my dog from doing this? So the answer, and what I always ask my clients, is what would you rather have them do? And that usually stumps people for a few minutes. They sit and they think, well, it's a whole different mindset. Instead of getting caught up and bogged down with what you don't want, start thinking about what you do want and teach that. So nothing exists in a vacuum, and dogs are not just going to stare at the wall. Young, active dogs. Yes, when your dogs get older or if they have some illness, it's different. But young, active dogs, especially puppies and adolescents I work with all the time, man, that brain is going. Most dogs were bred to do a job. So they are not going to sit on the couch all day. So that is why they start digging up the roses. That is why they start, barking incessantly at everything that goes by, because they have nothing else to do to fill their time. So fill that time with something that you would rather have your dog do. So again, instead of getting bogged down with, well, how do I stop the barking? How do I stop the chewing? How do I stop the digging? Well, we can stop all of those things, and you could employ punishment training and aversion training, but you still have a bored dog. So you can stop them from barking at the neighbors, but if you don't get rid of their boredom, then they're going to start digging in the garden. We can stop them from digging in the garden, but if you still haven't addressed the underlying issue, which is their boredom, then they're going to start doing something else. So the easiest, simplest, most effective way to phase out an undesirable behavior is to phase in a desirable behavior. It's a mutually exclusive behavior. They can't be doing A if they're doing B. They can't be jumping if they're sitting. They can't be barking if they're quiet. So instead of getting in this catch-22, this whole vicious cycle of endlessly stopping and punishing and aversion and all of that, it's so much easier and funner to teach what you want. And again, why do dogs do this? They're dogs. Why do dogs bark? They're dogs. That's what they do. And we can teach them not to bark, and they'll be like, okay, I guess I don't bark, but I'm still bored. So I guess I'm going to go, counter surf or see if I can steal somebody's socks and have them chase me around for half an hour. That's a hoot and a holler, right? So let's just stop the madness. And your first step is always, what do I want the dog to do at this time? How do I want him to greet me? How do I want him to occupy himself when he's bored? How do I want him to, ride in the car? How do I want him to walk on leash? Rather than waiting for them to do the wrong thing and then punish it, let's teach what we want from the get-go and reward that. It sounds easy. And it can be, but the difficulty lies in our human preconditioning, where we humans are conditioned, especially in this culture, to make things harder than it has to be, because this culture rewards hard work. If you got things too easily, you don't value them. or people don't value that you have them if it came too easily. If you have to work hard for something, oh, we really value hard work. But it doesn't always have to be hard. Take the easy route. Take the easy button. What is that commercial? Take the easy button. So simplify your training instead of getting bogged down in all of this training psychosis, and the YouTubes and the TikToks. I mean, everybody's got their own little lingo and their little verbiage about blah, 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 blah. Let's just simplify it. You don't need a bunch of fancy training collars. You don't need really anything except for your timing, your reward system, whatever that reward system is, and your dog. So please simplify it for your dog's sake. And instead of getting bogged down with all this other stuff that you don't need, just ask yourself, okay, the dog is really bugging me right now. What would I rather have him do? Well, instead of barking at everything, I'd rather have him be quiet, or I'd rather just have him lay down and chew his bone. So that's what we teach. We spend our efforts with what we want. And what is that? The more you think about something, the more you get of that. That's not good. That's not a good way to put it. You get more of what you think about. That's the way to put it. So start thinking about what you want, not what you don't want. And teach what you do want instead of, how do I stop this? How do I stop that? Because I don't want to be your answer man. I don't want to be, always coming to me. I mean, I'd love to, because, I love to talk to people and work with their dogs, of course. But I want to empower you to have this knowledge so you can solve these problems yourself. I'm not going to be around forever. So, and sometimes it does help, obviously, to have a coach or somebody to give you that objective perspective, because sometimes we get so close to it, we don't realize what we're doing. What is it? You can't see the forest for the trees. And I have a lot of clients, other trainers come to me, my apprentices, who working with their own dogs, I mean, they know how to do it with clients' dogs, but their own dog, they get too close to it. So I want to teach you that objectivity and how to stop, pull yourself out of it and go, what do I want? Rather than reacting to what's happening, start thinking about what you want and then teach that. So teach the sit, teach the quiet, and don't take those good behaviors for granted. That's the other thing we tend to do in this human culture that we have, is we ignore good behavior. Somebody does a million things right, we ignore it. But they do one thing that we really didn't like. Oh, we never let them forget it. Never. So I want to start spinning that around. Start marking the good behavior. Doesn't mean you ignore the bad behavior. We don't have reprimands or consequences for bad behavior, but that should be a very small percentage of what you're doing. If you find yourself constantly yelling at your dog or doing whatever sort of punishment aversion training you're doing with your dog, and they keep behaving that way, they're not understanding what you want. So go back to the basics and teach what you want to get that more reliable, consistent response. So simplify your training. It doesn't have to be hard. I am here to say it gets to be easy. It does. Everything in life gets to be easy. It's only your own belief system that gets in the way. When you believe it can be easy, it will be easy. I was talking to a really nice lady the other day, and it was our first phone call together, and she had done board and train. She had done like 3 other trainers and blah, 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 blah. And she's still having the same problem. And it took her a while. I kept asking, well, what are you doing? What is your response to your dog? Da, 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 da. And it took her a while to go, oh, it's me. Because the dog will listen to the trainer doesn't mean listens to the owner. And so that's why I think it's so important. And the missing piece of a lot of the puzzle is the consistency with the owner. Yeah, dogs are not dumb. They figure things out really annoyingly quick. So, so simplify your training. Don't pull in all these old beliefs and all these complicated things. Just focus on what you want and teach what you want. And the more you reward the right behavior, the more the dog is going to do that and not the undesirable behavior. So anyway, I hope this helped. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit. And until next time, go play with your dog. Talk soon.